Reconstructing your faith can be tricky.
Don't believe in the God most Christians we see on television believe in. If anything, that's a demon. That's a devil.
Meet Jeremy Alder. His series, Christians Who Don't Suck, is completely blowing up. And as a previous homeschooled ex-evangelical pastor, he is now sharing messages of hope in unlikely places.
I needed to be deepening my spiritual grounding and connection to be prepared for resistance.
So if you're excited to hear two previous homeschooled ex-evangelical minister kids talk about fascism, deconstructed faith, and what in the world our callings are now, well, buckle in.
You're like, God, why did I say yes to this podcast?
All right, you're sitting on an airplane, Jeremy, and a stranger sits next to you and they're feeling chitty chatty and they say, "What do you do for a living?" How do you respond?
I probably act like I'm asleep. Oh no. No, I will tell them that I do stand-up comedy and I'm trying to make a living at it, and that I'm a student currently working on a master's degree in social work.
In social work? Really? How come?
The ultimate goal is to become a LCSW and do therapy. Yeah. I don't know. I've kind of, since my own kind of spiritual deconstruction and reconstruction, or whatever you want to call it, social justice work has just kind of been at the core of what I think and care about, and who I want to be about, what I want to be about. I've had a number of jobs throughout my life. Most of them have been at least social work adjacent. It just kind of made sense, as my wife is a therapist. Yeah. And I have benefited greatly from therapy throughout my life. I naturally have formed kind of therapeutic relationships with people throughout my life. They seem to find me someone easy to talk to. And like, I don't know, it just kind of, as I was kind of thinking about a career change, not a change from comedy, but from my other kind of day job, which was in online publishing and editing, just made sense. Yeah, so I'm in my second semester of an MSW program while I'm planning a comedy tour. So it's, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever asked. I have a lot of friends who are comedians, and I don't think I've ever asked them this, but you're the perfect person, I think. I am a chronic overthinker, deep thinker. I feel very goofy but serious almost at all times. Like, my personality comes across goofy, but if you were to go inside my internal world, I'm like contemplating our existence and what my calling is on this earth. And that, I think it comes from my background that I shared with you, because we were trained, like, what is your calling? What is your purpose? Yeah. Are you fulfilling it? Are you honoring God's call in your life? Yada, yada. So I feel so like this weight inside of me at all times. But I've noticed in my own work that anything that I've ever created from a place of joy in life and silliness and creativity usually has succeeded the most and has brought me the most joy. And I'm always trying to like return back to that playful, funny, silly side to Heather, because my husband likes it more. I like it more. It usually works out more, but I feel weight. Sometimes I like that weight, because we do need helpers and activists and people doing things in this world. But also, too, it's hard for me to hold space for being light and also convicted.
Yeah.
And I'm curious your take on that, because you're hilarious. I love your comedy.
Oh,
I've been binging through it over the past couple weeks since I found you. I can relate to a lot of it. But then you tell me also you want to do some of this other work. And I'm curious how you kind of remain lighthearted when social work's not an easy field.
Mm-hmm.
Meet Heather
Yeah.
Carey. You weren't ready for that. Was question 1. Wait till we get to question 10.
That's a great question, and one I'm not sure I have a clear answer to, because I feel like I'm constantly struggling to balance those two parts of myself. I feel like comedy and humor is part of how I like stay alive and survive through witnessing so much suffering and trauma and pain around me. Not necessarily in my own personal life, but just in the world and in the life of friends and family and stuff. And so I think early on, I developed a sense of humor as a way of coping, I think. I too grew up with just a strong sense of like needing to care for others and putting others' needs before my own and making sure others are taken care of. And I did feel it as a real weight and burden. Part of the reason I started doing comedy was to, like you, explore develop that other part of myself. And I think I needed a space where I didn't feel like I needed to fix, help, save, rescue. I could just aim for joy. And in that sense, I hate the phrase, comedy is therapy, but because it's not. Right. Therapy is therapy, and you shouldn't use comedy as therapy. But I will say it was therapeutic for me in that sense to be doing comedy, because it did strengthen that part of myself. It did help me dive into that part of myself and integrate it more into my life. But man, there's still so many days where I don't feel like I can be funny, where I don't want to be funny, where I don't want to make people laugh, because I feel like we shouldn't be laughing right now. We should all just be weeping or screaming, and laughter feels just almost blasphemous or disrespectful. But I don't think that's the right approach to the world either. I mean, obviously in certain contexts it is, but in general, I mean, that's just not a sustainable way to live either. So it's a constant negotiation between those two sides of myself. And it makes doing comedy definitely more challenging. I wish sometimes I could shut off that part of my brain.
Yeah. Me too.
But
it's a gift.
Also, it's a gift and a curse. Yeah.
Did you grow up evangelical Christian?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, definitely fundamentalist.
Okay.
And like we were never apart. It was all non-denominational, like storefront, charismatic congregations that some usually poorly educated but charismatic and entrepreneurial man started.
Speaking in tongues, healing, all that.
Speaking in tongues, healings, dancing in the aisles, all that. Okay. Yeah.
So I know this is so ignorant of me. I was so indoctrinated and seeped into that world. It wasn't until like the last few years I've really started understanding all the different brands of Christian. So I'm always like, because the other day I was talking to a girlfriend of mine and I was like, and I started using some of these references like prophetic and all this stuff. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I thought you were a Christian. She's like, what do you mean prophecy and what? And I'm like, oh girl, because we would like, do the street ministry, praying and getting a vision and that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
So you get the vibe. I'm curious, when you decided to shift into kind of the entertainment space, what was, I guess, the internal kind of things you needed to walk through to bring yourself to that? And maybe this is just me, you might not experience this. I've felt a lot of, even though I don't believe the same way, a lot of questioning myself of if I'm doing the right thing and honoring God with my life. Because I was called to ministry at a young age. I think we all were. You know what I mean? And it's like this thing in the back of my head, like, could I just have a podcast and work with filmmakers? And was that, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Still struggle with that. Yeah, that's why, I can't just do comedy. I have to also be working on a social work degree at the same time and planning a life in social work, possibly as a therapist.
I have a counseling degree. I get it.
Yeah. See, so yes, to me, there's still something doesn't feel right to just entirely throw myself into the entertainment industry or whatever. Right. But I guess it helps that I do think of comedy, at least the practice of it for me, is more than just entertainment, I think. It's experienced. I know it's experienced as entertainment, as it should be, but my doing it is, I don't know, the practice of it. There is a spiritual dimension of it.
Yes,
I guess.
Yeah.
For me, for me, it is a part of the process of like self-discovery and self-understanding. I often figure out what I really think and what I really feel about an issue through writing comedy. And I mean, I really think this is true. For me, it is less about entertaining people and more about trying to connect. And because I've never been great at that. And I don't know if it's because I was homeschooled. I lived very sheltered. Maybe I have some kind of neurodivergence, but I've never been easy and comfortable in social situations. And comedy is a way that I feel like I'm able to like connect emotionally with people. And it's weird that it's almost easier for me to do that in a room full of strangers than with, friends and family.
We're long lost cousins, dude. Same.
Yeah. I find it is weird. It's also very common among stand-ups. I don't think this perspective is all that unusual. Yeah. So I don't know what that's about. But
how did your family feel when you said you wanted to go into comedy?
I mean, it's been such a gradual thing.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like I started doing it and then I was like, this is going to be my life. I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. It was just something I started doing, and I started spending more and more time doing it. And when I first started doing it, I was just coming out of a divorce, and I was sharing custody of my kids 50-50. And so I would have I'd be week on, week off with my kids, and I would have this whole week and with time that I didn't have before. And comedy was what I used to fill it. And it's where it was kind of where I started to find community again. I had stopped going to church because I felt like churches in general, at least in the evangelical tradition, are not great, I think, at processing divorce with people. And I didn't know how I was feeling about the church, but it was feeling more like, I don't know, I was getting a lot less out of it than I was putting in to show up. And I was in such a just hard, challenging and fragile state that I kind of went into this self-protective mode. And I stopped going to church, and I found the comedy community much more welcoming and just easier to be with. And so I kind of threw myself into it. And it just didn't stop. Just kept doing it. And it really wasn't until a few years ago that I started to think, well, maybe this could actually be a thing, you know, like a career path for me. So yeah, so they've kind of gradually come along with me. My kids have always been supportive. They've always thought it was interesting and cool. My parents have, I know, had some issues with the way I've talked about homeschooling and their role in it. I
Friend.
think they felt somewhat like I was disrespecting them.
Yeah.
And so we've had to have some conversations about that. And I've, tried to explain that, like, in none of my comedy do I put my parents down or make fun of them. It's about making fun of myself and making fun of the concept
Right.
of homeschooling. It's,
Right.
but I think they took some of it personal, and we've worked through it, I think, for the most part. And they're pretty on board. But I think they're happy to see some of the success that I've had in it.
I could talk to you for 18 hours just about that. I will bypass it because I haven't had those conversations yet, and I need to. I think growing up the way that we did, kind of more sheltered environment, very religious, homeschooled, yada yada yada. It's interesting as an adult who's trying to pursue something unconventional, off the beaten path, to figure out kind of who you are and reshape your identity. And when again, this is my experience, maybe yours is different. When such a strong part of your identity is God and religion, and when you leave that, it felt so shaky. And I've told you before, in this process of reconstructing, and I relate to what you said about comedy being spiritual. I'm not a comedian, but for me, the creative process, learning about, what Stephen Pressfield calls the muse, and, that whole world, for me, it's so spiritual that I tell people all the time, like, I found another church in the creative space because it feels like another connection to God.
Yeah.
And I haven't fully grounded myself in like what I fully believe yet. I think the more I study, the more questions I have, and I'm so unsure, but I kind of love being unsure because it feels more mystical and interesting, and it feels like you're dating God. You know what I mean? Instead of in this like 30-year boring marriage. But I'm curious, like, your perception on that, like, kind of how do you wrestle with like God and spirituality now? Because you could just go and be a comedian and do this social justice route, but you've started a series about Christians who don't suck. So for me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, there's still some element there of maybe Christianity or faith in Jesus or wanting to change the narrative around it. And let's go. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well,
You're like, God, why did I say yes to this podcast?
no, not at all. This is great. You ask really, really good questions. They're making me think. And
So often I get to talk to somebody who is like you, who's I don't know your full experience, but from what I've heard, I don't talk to a lot of ex-evangelical Christian homeschoolers who are now grown-ups and trying to do something creative. Like, that is a very specific person.
yeah, same. I haven't met a whole lot of them. So yeah, the spiritual part. So, well, starting that series. So I've just actually in the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, started attending church again. I know. And yeah, and I mean, it's been years, and it's the motivation is more fascism is upon us, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the need for people to begin building bonds in their community for our own safety and protection and countervailing power against the fascist threat.
Yeah.
Is what motivated me to be like, all right, I need to be connecting with more communities and people around me, because fascism thrives on isolated individuals. They're easily manipulated and easily victimized. And so it was more of a political act to start attending. There's a tiny little 200-year-old Episcopal church about a block from my house. And I just started going. I have a lot of people from my neighborhood attend the church. And so it's just kind of been a way for me to connect and build relationships in my community primarily. I mean, there's a lot more there too. I mean, I do vibe with a pretty, the Episcopal tradition is fairly, it's contemplative, and there's a
You're saying
strong
big words that homeschoolers don't know. Contemplative? What?
contemplative, right? I mean, it's just their approach to prayer and spirituality is
Contemplative.
contemplative. It is,
Okay.
yeah. It's quiet and deep and slow, not loud and flashy and showy like the churches in my background, right? And so I think coming out of those churches, I've kind of longed for a kind of deeper, slower kind of approach to spirituality, and there's just a deep, rich kind of history and theological tradition there, and so, and I like, it's very liturgical, it's very structured, and there's lots of the like, the smells and bells that you get in these more traditional denominations. And there is a lot that I like about that. If I'm honest with myself, I feel very comfortable in that environment and kind of moved. It's very beautiful. I grew up literally going to churches in strip malls and like, large, like, steel buildings, with no windows, no ornament, no
ceremony.
No ceremony.
Right.
Yeah. It's just very plain and utilitarian and boring. And so this is very much the opposite of that. It's also, like I said, it's over 200 years old. It's rooted in this town, in this place.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I wanted to connect to some of that, really as a response to fascism. I mean, I know that's a big word too, but that's what I feel like that's what we're experiencing. So I also realized I needed to be deepening my spiritual grounding and connection to God and to this place, to be prepared for resistance. And so I think that's part of that too. And so, yeah, that was a long answer to that question, but I feel like with the series, Christians Who Don't Suck, I've been, since Trump was reelected, I've just been very angry and ashamed and embarrassed by people who carry the title of Christian.
Amen.
I mean, all of the ones that are kind of in the public eye right now are some of the most soulless, cruel, mean-spirited, bigoted, greedy people, and they are destroying so much that I love and care about, my country, communities of people that are already suffering, that are now more afraid and being more persecuted than ever, and I hate it. And I also recognize that, like, these are, like, the people that put these people in power. These are my people. These are the people I grew up with that made me, right? This is my friends and family in the white evangelical churches. And so I feel even though I don't identify so much with that community, I do feel some responsibility there. And so, I can and I do engage in protest and other ways of, like, channeling that anger. But I wanted to do something kind of positive, and I was like, where could I point towards some hope and inspiration for doing Christianity or just life differently? And I knew that there were all of these Christians out there who were really living a kind of lives of radical love and sacrifice and generosity, and whose lives were oriented to justice. And I feel like they don't get the attention that, that the loud bigots are getting. And I wanted to bring them to people's attention, because these are people who have meant a lot to me personally, who have given me hope, who have inspired me, and who have shaped me in really valuable ways. And so the first one I did was on Dorothy Day, the co-founder of the Catholic Worker Movement. And I've been I don't know if fan is the right word, but a deep admirer of Dorothy Day since I found out about her in college. And so I was like, I just want to do like a little 1-minute video about Dorothy Day's life and what she did. And because I think what she's about is needed now more than ever. And the response to it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I think there's something here. People want this. And so I have a list. I mean, I have so many Christians who don't suck. And so I just started putting out one a week, and it's kind of
blown up,
taken off. I've been shocked. I mean, it's really wonderful, the connections that I've made to people around the world now. And people, sending me DMs with like, can you please feature, so-and-so who I think, is, someone from my country who I think is, deserving to be, promoted. And yeah, it's been really cool. It's done what I wanted to do. And it feels good because it's making use of a part of me that I hadn't really been tapping into or engaging. Because I spent 4 years in divinity school, like studying the lives of the saints, studying the Bible, studying Christian history, preparing for ministry and stuff. So I have a lot of that like knowledge and experience. And I'm trying to figure out, like, in this moment, how can I make use of that you know? And so, yeah, so that's doing these videos is one way that I can make use of that.
I'm so glad I met you.
I'm
I'm
so glad I met you. Thank
Dude,
you.
I just want to be your friend. I mean it, man. Like this is where my mind goes, and I haven't been able to articulate it and figure out this answer for myself. And please know when I ask you questions, it's not like I think really any of us have the answers to these. I just like wrestling with them with other folks. Um, I've been thinking a lot about how do I stay hopeful and not and close to God, close to source. And when I left ministry, um, I went to school to be a therapist too,
Oh,
because I was like, I still have to help people. Like, come
yeah.
on.
Right.
Um, but what I struggled with there is not having anything to point to. So when I was
Hmm.
helping in ministry, it was like, go to Jesus, he'll save you. See how country I am? He'll save you. You won't have to
It
go
really
to
came through
hell.
thick.
He'll save you. Um, and then when I left, it's not that I didn't still believe in Jesus or the message of the gospel. I was just confused about, okay, is my job really to try to, because I'd say it was Jesus saving people, but really what I meant and really what we meant as the collective is we were saving people. You come to our club and we'll get you saved and we'll get you right. And it was like this agenda based thing. And so I really wanted to get away from that. But then when I came back to like, I really do believe God put me on this earth, and maybe this isn't right. It's still doctrination. I don't know, but to um, to help folks and do some good in this world, but not having an agenda or to point people to. It felt weird, like kind of lost. And all that to say, it's like I want to point towards hope and not get bitter and angry because some people are like, burn it all down, screw church, screw God, screw all of it. It's all a bunch of lies. But I think the next evolution of questioning faith is finding it in a different way, but also too not getting caught back in, I'm just throwing up all over you, but getting caught back in the dogma of it and the
Yeah.
savior mentality. And I'm
Yeah.
just curious how you wrestle with that. I love that you're going back to church. That really challenges me because I miss ceremony, or I never had ceremony. Um, but also too, I think I'm scared. I'm scared to get back in that world because I don't like most Christians I know.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I wrestle with it. My wife made a great point when I started going back to church. She doesn't go with me. She was like, I feel like I'm watching you return to an abusive relationship. Part of my answer to that is I am not the same person I was. And I am much more self-aware of the abusive dynamics that can develop. And I'm on guard for those. And so it's like, if it's like, if you have a challenging childhood and you have a lot of tension between you and a particular parent, sometimes you need to take a break and work on yourself and let them grow and you grow. And then sometimes you can later have a kind of relationship. It's not going to be the same kind of relationship, but you can have some kind of relationship. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at with the church. But yeah, I'm still not entirely comfortable with it. I still don't entirely have a great answer. Because I do question myself constantly, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm just going right back because I'm scared, or things are feeling out of my control, and I'm just kind of running back to what's comfortable and trying to like create a sense of like security or something. And that's probably going on at some level, but I don't think that's all that's going on. So, I mean,
Do you believe in God still?
yes. That's a qualified yes, because
Yes.
when I use that term, it's not in the same way.
Right. Right.
It's been a constant throughout my life evolution of my understanding of who or what I'm referring to when I say God. I don't believe in the God that I think most Christians we see on television believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. That's if anything, that's a demon. That's a devil. That's not any kind of God that's worth following. So yeah, it's a qualified yes. I can't shake a sense that there is an I mean, you use the word source, I think. Like
I use a lot
there's
of
a
words. It
yeah,
depends if it's Tuesday or Saturday or
right, yeah.
yeah.
I do have this sense that there is this kind of uncreated life source of energy, power, love at the core of everything that kind of animates this whole thing we're going through. And that's always, I mean, what could be more interesting or fascinating than like trying to like understand that and connect with it, right? And so yeah, so I would say with some qualifications, yes, I believe in God.
You seem to be a very calm but passionate dude. Like there's a lot of fire in you and there's a lot of conviction, and I appreciate how blunt you are with certain things. Like I'm working on that in myself of being more honest about how I feel towards the way I grew up or homeschooling or things like that. And I still, I'm a Southern Christian Bible Belt girl, so I'm still
Yeah.
trying to be nice to everybody and give them the light.
Of course. Yeah.
But I'm curious when I listen to you and when I hear you speak, like I see this undertone of fire and passion towards just kind of revolting against the system, and maybe it's anger, maybe it's something more positive. Well, anger is not necessarily negative, but you know what I mean. I'm curious where that came from, because again, you could just lay something down and walk away, but I feel like you still carry it with you and feel very convicted to do something about it. Was there something that happened in your life where you just born this way? Where do you think that kind of undertoned fire, passion, resolve comes from?
Well, I think I share some of it with my mom. She has a fire in her. She was a kind of radical anti-abortion activist when I was a kid. And so I grew up going to protests, but protests at abortion clinics with my mom. And in fact, do we have a picture somewhere of my mom made homemade t-shirts for me and my brother, and this is wild. I mean, to anyone outside of this world, this has got to sound absolutely insane, because it is. But there's a picture of us outside of a clinic at a protest, standing next to my mom, and it's my big brother, and he's wearing a T-shirt that said, "I survived the abortion Holocaust," and I'm standing next to him with a T-shirt that says, "Me too." And there's so many layers of wrongness there. I mean, that I don't even know where to begin. But I do think that captures something about what my life was like.
I know.
And what shaped me as a kid.
I know.
The good and the bad. I think my mom's anger and passion for justice I think that's what was driving her in part, in this real sense, because it had been kind of drilled into her that these innocent, precious, defenseless babies are being murdered by these evil doctors, and all of these women are being manipulated into getting abortions, and you've got to do something about it.
Right.
And she believed very much, and she set a great example for me, that it's not enough to just have internal private convictions about the world. You then need to act on them and do something about it, right?
Yep.
And she did. She was doing that in her own way, as misdirected as I now think it is. She did it in a way that, like, cost her something. It wasn't easy what she did. She took major risks with her life and with her kids to follow through on her convictions. And I think that's always stuck with me. And I think that's probably where I got the initial sense of, like, life is about more than myself. It is about more than just taking care of my own. It is also about, people out in the world that are suffering, and we should do something about it. So I think there's that for sure. And
I shouldn't be laughing.
no, we should. It's pretty. I laugh about it.
God, it's so weird looking back on things now, because it was so normal back then, and now it's like hearing it removed from it. It's like, oh wow, we did do that stuff. Because I did the same. I did the red tape. I went to Supreme Court steps and did all that when I was in my early 20s, which I have a whole story with that. And there's so much stuff I just feel like really ashamed of that I did back then, because now I just didn't understand. And now, I appreciate you're trying to steer that passion towards something that's positive now and hopeful. But I guess my question, kind of going back into the hope part, is like, what gives you hope now? You know what I mean? Like, where do you put your hope? How do you not get bitter? Where do you see light, I guess, in this tunnel? Because I told you at the beginning, I did the deconstruction thing. And for me, I don't know why, again, maybe we like abusive relationships. That's why we do it. But for me, it's like, I miss feeling like purpose and things. I love that feeling. I do believe in God. I don't know why I do. I feel something, like I feel it in my bones, and I can't get away from that. And also I want to make sure that it's not indoctrination, that it's honest. And again, these are questions that nobody has the answer to. I'm just curious, like, how you keep yourself from saying F it and still pointing towards hope.
Yeah. Wow. Another great question. You're really good at this, Heather. You're really good at this. I think you found your...
Don't tell me that.
I'm not going to say you found your calling. You didn't find your calling.
I've been avoiding this so much. I've done over 1,000 podcast interviews between different shows, and it's always been about business, marketing. I did a show on NFTs one time. I've done a mental health podcast. I've done so many. And then we just got back from Rome. We took the family, and I don't know why, but walking through those churches and, we went to the Vatican and all of that, I felt energetically something shift inside of me and just like, I want to talk about this now.
Hmm.
And you're my first person. I'm so sorry.
Oh, wow.
I've been inviting a bunch of people on in the kind of deconstruction space. You're the first one to book, so you're getting the brunt of it. But I told Brian, I said I'm ready to start talking about this on the show, and I don't know if people are going to like it or not, but it's honest and it's yeah.
Well, I'm honored to be the first. This has been this has really been a great conversation. I don't get to talk about this stuff very often with people. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. I wish I was more articulate about this stuff. That's part of the frustration is like, I'm still trying to put words onto kind of what my spiritual
Me too.
kind of, adventure has been about and where I'm at right now. I don't exactly know how to put it into words. So I appreciate the opportunity to try, because that's how I'm going to figure it out. That's how I figure it out. You start talking about it and you figure out, oh, that didn't sound quite right. Or maybe I'm onto something. But as far as where I find hope, it is in these saints, not necessarily official saints, but these people, these Christians who don't suck. That I'm featuring. I'm featuring people who give me hope. But also, I mean, beyond individuals, Black people in America give me hope. The absolute hell that Black folks have been through and the way they have survived and thrived it's the most inspiring story America has, is the history of Black people in America. And so I have learned and drawn so much hope and inspiration from the Black experience, from, I don't know. I just, that has shaped so much. I was licensed to preach in the Black Baptist Church. That's a part of my story too, because I feel like the Black church is maybe the only church that's remained somewhat faithful in American history. And so I've just derived so much from the Black church and the Black experience in America, so much hope and ways of thinking about resisting fascism, resisting domination, resisting oppression. I mean, that's where we need to be looking. They've been here before. They've been here for a long time, and so, and also, I mean, other marginalized community, like the LGBTQ community in America. I mean, the hell they've been through and continue to be put through, and they still find creative ways to survive and resist and thrive and find joy and find hope. And so when I start despairing as a straight, white, cisgendered man, I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you lose hope? Yeah. Like, you have no grounds for that. You're at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Like, so
that's good.
So yeah, that's an honest answer.
Despite this crazy ass road that I just drug you through for 1 hour, is like the deepest conversation ever. You are so funny. You're hilarious. I love your comedy. Here's a quick detour. I have a final question for you, but you have a gift too with just kind of bringing everything together in a being relatable. Like, I love how you share your story. and able to laugh at it. But again, I think you said it earlier, like the commonality, listening to I found you through Christians who don't suck. I keep calling it Christians who suck, Christians who don't suck. But then when I started listening to your comedy, it was like, I felt seen. I was like, oh my God, I relate to so much of this. And I don't laugh at a lot of comedy. Sorry, guys who I'm friends with, but I just don't. I think because a lot of it's not relatable for me. So I'm really grateful that you bring in all of this stuff a lot of people may not understand, because for people like me, it's like, finally I can laugh at this. And I've never really been able to before. So Almost a Grown Man, streaming everywhere. It'll be linked up in the show notes. Your Instagram's going to be linked up in the show notes. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to check out?
Well, you can go to my website, jeremyalder.com, and that's where I have all of my tour dates, and you can sign up for my mailing list, which I'd greatly appreciate. That's how I decide where I go, is where people are that want to see me. So that would be really helpful.
And if you need therapy in a couple of years. Very last question. What is something in your life? I always ask this question, and this is the worst question to ask you after what we just talked about, but here we go. What is something in your life that you are deeply questioning, that you don't have the answer to? And it can be something deep, like we just talked about, or it can be something really small. Like I've been questioning lately this real ID situation on my driver's license, because part of me thinks it's the mark of the beast and the thief in the night, and we're going to get chips in us. But then I wonder why I'm still afraid of that. So what is something you've been questioning lately that you don't have the answer to?
Oh, gosh. Another great question, Heather. What have I been questioning lately? I mean, I just, I'm so immersed in this school and these programs right now. I guess, I mean, for me personally, I guess I question, is it possible to make any of the things that I really care about funny in a way that connects with people? Like that is, I guess, the thing that consumes me is I'm like, how do I bring my real self to the comedy stage in a way that connects? Because this is the stuff I really want to be talking about, but I don't know how to make it funny. I don't know how to get people to laugh in a bar or a brewery in small town North Carolina. Like, I don't know. So like that's something I've been wrestling with. And is it yeah, it's a myth when I try and joke about religion and stuff. Like, how do I do this in a way that's like true and to my perspective, and also not doesn't come across as disrespectful or demeaning or belittling to people who hold this stuff really really sacred? Because one of the ways me joking about something for me is not, it's not, to me that's sacred too. Right. I can joke about sacred things because to me it's not inherently disrespectful. And so
people have been out of shape over stuff. I said on a reel, I said I said it real country too, because when I get passionate I get country, but I swear to sweet baby Jesus. I said it like that.
Sure.
Oh my God, like railing me. You never swear to Jesus ever.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So I feel you. It's like, that's
Right.
what I asked you at the beginning. How do you have fun and light
Yeah.
when all this stuff's so freaking deep?
Yeah, I know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know the answer to that. So that's
I don't know the
that's
answer
the
to
mystery.
anything. I don't
Yeah.
know the answer to anything. Jeremy, thank you. This was probably the
thank
best
you,
conversation
Heather.
I've had in a long time. Thank you for your time.
This has been fantastic.